Yeah, so if you have any questions, by all means, hello. Good to see someone on here. That's good. Yeah, was a bit of a delay, unfortunately. YouTube has done this in the past where I've had try setting things up in multiple times. The streaming seems to be, a lot of clashing technology and either works or doesn't work. I'm sure it works if you're just using some sort of out of the box webcam or a pre-designed camera for that kind of thing. But I've got SLR system plugged in through. Yeah, it's all like studio lighting type stuff and other things which are plugged in here. So funnily enough, the higher end equipment is less reliable. So that's typical. Yeah, yeah, and it's also incredibly hot. It's amazingly hot in here. There are multiple workstations in here running all the time, and the that plus the NAS plus everything else makes this room pretty toasty, even normally. And right now it's it's very, very, very hot. Yeah. So um, yeah, no AC in this house. This is an old house. I haven't installed any AC in here. It's a bit problematic for AC installation, and I'm not a fan of the like the wheel them around type ones that you sit on a floor. Uh, yeah, normally most of the year this is great. It's just that we've had this huge spike recently where it's gone up to 35 plus degrees, and it's not ideal. It's not ideal for this country. It's not ideal for this house. My workshop, the workshop is, so we had a thing where the workshop that I built out the back, which has a lot of equipment in it and space and lighting and everything else, that was underneath a large tree up until a few months ago. The tree had to be cut down. It was nicely shaded all the time and sitting in a nice corner. And now the tree's gone and it's sitting in blazing sun. And yeah, it's quite the difference. So I've got to make some adjustments to that. But yeah, unfortunately, that last few months has been when I've been away. So I've come back to a workshop that kind of cooks things a little bit. So that's okay. It's just adjustments. There's always adjustments to make. So there's some good. Yeah. So yeah. Yeah, it does make the thing with the business of I've wrecked a bit of silicon, and I've also managed to crush my master dice. The 3D print was made with internal structures to save space, because that kind of fine micro printing to make a dice size it just racks up the cost a bit. So the filling on the solid interior had a structure that was designed to keep it all in place. And the pressure casting and everything else, I think possibly plus the heat as it went, it did the old flattening. So no, yeah, no, not yet, not quite yet. I will, we'll have dice samples very soon. I was really keen to have them on today, but yeah, I crushed things instead. I did that on Wednesday. So yeah, it'll be resolved. And yeah, I'm yeah, no, it's not been the most pleasant week to say the least, but that's all good. We'll get there. I was going to, so I've got a thing lined up downstairs. The thing that I mentioned about with the mocap space. So this is the studio up here. There's another mocap space down there, which is larger room, but it's gets directly heated from the front, which makes it actually even hotter than here, which is terrible. That room is set up for shooting. I was going to shoot some of this here, down there, but with the heat, that room is basically set up so that I can do some guide videos and other things that I mentioned, where I'm going to go over stuff at length. And there's a top-down camera to look at the desk so I can have books open, and that seems like a good way to do it. go over things in the book while I'm talking about it, and then having overlays and other things that can help with going over areas of rules and lore and things you might encounter and how to go about them and that kind of thing. And then just do it that way, because that seems like a good format for it. So yeah. People have been playtesting the game system up until about 3 months ago. When I say testing the game system up until months ago, is that I made some changes, some tweaks based on feedback, and those new tweaks haven't been playtested. Well, I haven't really heard any proper feedback. I've heard about one comment, and that's it. So far, the new tweaks haven't had any playtesting, but they're a refinement on existing rules. So I'm assuming that these will be better because they're based on feedback and recommendations. So, or rather, my recommendations based out of feedback. So, yeah. That's what I'm really keen for. So I was actually thinking about this. This is something that's I've been thinking about quite a lot, because at the end of the day, what matters is the quality of the system that gets played in the end, that goes out, is the most important thing. And obviously, it's nice to have as much playtesting as you can do prior to having a book published. And so, because we've only got a small group of people, and I've been quite cautious about having things go out before they're actually published, because of basically people steal stuff. So I'm not a really big fan of. I've done far too much of this over the last few years, where I've been talking at length about aspects of the game system and the world and implementations in the video game, different things about the tabletop version, everything about it. I think it's, while it has a benefit, it's also quite detrimental to talk about those things with too much detail, because people tend to just take these ideas and steal them and put them in their own things before you were even ever published. And especially with something that's taken me so long to do, working on stuff myself. So I've been a little bit more cautious of that in the last 6 months. But I can't help myself. Basically, I'm very excited about things, and I like to share stuff. And at the end of the day, this is getting given out as there's the text of the book in itself is free, so it's not like all I'm doing is trying to stop people from leapfrogging me if there's something that's considered really good. So with that in mind, I've deliberately sort of limited the playtesting in a way that I could have been having more extensive playtesting. But that's why I was thinking about it might be a good idea to have a bit more of it, but there's not really any way to fit it in between this and having everything printed and published. So for me, it's just a case of I think we've done enough. I think that's okay. We can always do things on another version, that can be refined for a second version. But hopefully that version wouldn't be out for a while, because a lot of work has gone into making sure this one's okay. So it's that kind of thing is tricky. I've thought about this as well, about the fact that because we have a digital version and there is the print version, and the print version, when that's released, you can't undo print. Like, there's no way to do a revision on print. But with the digital version, there's an opportunity for revision, or tweaks or changes or something like that, if they're really necessary. I don't really, I'm not a fan of going, hey, what does everybody think? Oh, you don't like this, and I'll just arbitrarily change everything, because I wouldn't do that. It's not really my work. But there's always the chance that somebody spots something that's quite valuable further down the line, and so missing the opportunity to have a change like that, is something I'd rather not miss if I can have it in there. So I did think about when everything's putting out a digital one, having everybody look at the digital one, and then give comments on the digital one before the print one. Is because at the moment what I'm still doing is I've had to make some changes with the print one based on feedback from this layout tweaks and other things that need to be done for the print, and so I've still been we've still got the actual printing process hasn't started yet, so that's why I've been umming and ahhing about this a little bit, where I might have a way to have a look at it previously. I don't know. I'm in two minds about it, because I really just want it out. I just want it printed and out and done. And this kind of thing might just be an unnecessary pause. It might not gain anything from it. It might be beneficial. It might not. But in my mind, I'd rather just have it printed. Some think it's probably best to do that. Either way, I'm moving forward with it. I'm not going to prevaricate over everything too much. Yeah. Yeah. Does anybody have any questions about anything, law, rules, anything? Yeah. Yeah. Cool. So with the high quality 3D printed stuff, I mean, so I have what we wanted to do is have because with tabletop, everyone plays tabletop slightly differently, and part of the reason for constructing the A7 system the way I've done it is that it's designed to accommodate different play styles, because that to me is a really important thing. Whether it's a play style of you being a beginner and you've never done things before, or that you're experienced and you like a lot of crunch, maybe you like very GURPY stuff, or maybe you don't. You just want very narrative driven play, and maybe you have theater of the mind. Maybe you have you like your figurines, etc. These are all different things. They're all equally valid. They're just the way people like to interface with the world, and so for me that kind of thing is important to with the nature of the system. We're not trying to make a thing that is everything. That's never been the purpose of A7. But for me, if you're going to build something that is designed that way, if you design it well, you can make something that is flexible without sacrificing what I call systemic quality, like the stuff that makes everything work. You can easily, if you try and make some sort of Swiss Army knife thing that's not built right, you can end up just with a messy thing that doesn't make any sense. So there's been a lot of revision, a lot of thought about making it so that there's consistent core rules, and those rules, like I mentioned with this LOD system, they can be adapted to different play styles and different things. So when it comes to something like other 3D printed, oh hey, yeah, no worries, cool, all good. I was very late myself, so it's totally fine. So the thing about the 3D printed stuff is that while the dice is a thing for me that's there's a reason why the high quality stuff is done with the dice at the moment, is because, well, there's multiple reasons. One is that those dice are critical to play, but the dice themselves are not critical because I've specifically designed it so that the dice, you don't need special stuff to play it. Like that's, for me, it's really important that if you're trying to make something accessible and you want that to be properly accessible, even putting it behind a particular set of dice reduces the accessibility of it. And so actually, I'll get back to the dice, but the reason I'm saying about the stuff about the other 3D printed, high quality printed stuff is, I don't really see a market in doing, like say market is more of a justified reason for making lines of figurines or anything else like that, because you end up with it's very easy to make a thing where you have particular sets or types or looks of things that become say for instance, as an example from D&D, you may have a figurine of a bugbear, and a bugbear is a bugbear. It's great, represents a bugbear, and while you can do that with things from A7, that for me, it kind of undermines the theme of A7, which is generally about complexity and a vast variety of difference and different things. It's built into the nature of Act 7 to be like have a lot going on, and that's part of what makes it what it is. So having particular sets of figurines seems to contradict that in a way, but at the same time it's nice to have things where you can put something down. If you're the type that likes maps on a table and grids and working with things, there's a system in there for how that functions, because it's not part of the default play style, but it's there to accommodate people who like it. If you're doing that with figurines, I think it's more important to give people access to have their own figurines, give them the tools to make the figurines that suit them, rather than producing a lot of figurines for sale. So with that in mind, there's lots of components available from the digital side of things that can be released as printable components for people to print, and then we can do some preprints of things if people need them, for different people and objects and creatures and things like that. So that's the only stuff that I know that I've got anything planned for high quality 3D prints. Obviously, if things were very large and there was a reason for it, having actual collectible figurines, they're always fun. They're great. Having high detailed large things as collectible is cool. They're always good fun. But for me, the emphasis is always on quality. It's the same with the dice. That's the other reason why the dice are high quality, is because for me, it's just something I like to do. If you're going to do something, do it well. Like if you're going to make something, push the boat out. Do the best thing you can, and the dice are a version of that. I keep steepling my fingers like this, but yeah. So the dice are a version of that. It's just being expressive as an artist, and I like the idea that you can look at something and see that the engineering is part of the art design, and the engineering from the design of it through to the actual machinery that helps you produce it, along with your hand production. All of those things together is very satisfying. And so if you know that you've got that, and you've got that in your hand, and you can look at it and you know the history of it, the kind of the provenance of it, that kind of thing is, it feels really good. For me, it's the same thing as, it's the internal knowledge of knowing something and the effort put into something is what makes things valuable. So it's the same thing as when you look at something from a factory and you know that there are 30,000 of those things put out every second. there's nothing, you can't compare the value of that to something that someone handmade and bound and put in your palm. They're two very, very different things to me, and I like the latter. I'm not a fan of the former. So yeah, there's always going to be an emphasis of doing that kind of thing with A7. So yeah, yeah. That's one of those. That's just one of those things. Oh, the PDF. So the PDF version. When can you expect it? Very soon. Basically, all I'm doing is I want to make sure that the PDF is coming out the same as the one that's actually in print. So they matched, and I have a yeah, I have a. I'm just sorry. I'm reading a question popped up. I have a. Oh, one thing to remember: there will be occasional pauses in this. While the camera does this every once in a while, where it seems to make a shutter sound and resets, and I've never really checked what that is. So you'll occasionally get a laggy pause, but it's meaningless. It doesn't mean anything. So yeah, the PDF version, because I'm making these tweaks, one of the tweaks I've had to do is I've reformatted the actual format of the book. And that's the biggest thing that's taken a little while, because it was A4. I've changed it. We've changed because after some discussion with the printers, I've changed it to the standard US letter size, which is the normal size for other books. It's changed the page count a bit because it's the same information. It's just fractionally a few mil shorter, but it does make a difference, and it's tweaked. It's meant everything's very slightly rearranged. Possibly the most annoying kind of rearranging, because it's when you tweak everything, it's now everything's slightly off, and is going through it all and fiddling with it. So there's not really any changes to. Yeah, there's not many other changes than that. But once all that's done, this thing I've mentioned before that I was considering about putting the digital version out first, and then putting getting everyone to give a one-time feedback on the digital version could be beneficial before signing off on the print one, so that there's you're not figuring out if you need to undo anything from the print one that you can't. So I'll have a think about that, but I'm currently erring on the side of just sending everything to print at the same time as the digital goes out. Either or. It's one of those things where I've been concerned, and have been, as you would be as a creative for some time, that when I release the PDF is anyone can take that PDF and upload that and stick it in an AI and get an AI to start making a new version of it. And we've put in some mitigations for that, a few different layers of things to make things a bit difficult, you could say, including legal. There is actually in the license for the book, it explicitly says that you cannot use this for training or anything like that. People will do it anyway, but at least there's a few things in place to cause trouble for anybody who's trying to do that. But I'm very cautious about that kind of thing. So I'm trying to get everything released roughly at the same time, so at least everything goes out and there is a clear case that if anyone's doing anything like that, then they're obviously directly ripping me off and ripping my work off. I mean, that's the best you can do, really. You can't do much else. People who steal stuff are going to steal stuff. It is what it is. So yeah. Yeah, I don't really know much about TTRPGs. Are you playing as one of the 4 characters in the TTRPGs? Oh, so yeah, I should say, in the TTRPG, no. So the characters in the TTRPG are always your own character. Everything about the game, the GM guide and the player's guide, handbook and everything, they're all purely about you building your own things and building everything from scratch. It's very much designed to be a system that is built around making your own things. that it was very important for me, at least, that I provide the tools that allow you to build a wide variety of flexible adventures. I say adventures, campaigns, adventures, they're all kind of the same thing. But I balk at saying adventures because for me, sometimes, if you want to be truly flexible, a module. Hello, little one. That's my kitty, one of my kitties. Boo boo. Hello. Yeah. Cool. Oh, she's okay. Yeah. Anyway, that's Lulu. Yeah. So for me, it's really important to provide a really solid set of tools so that if someone wants to do so, go there. When I say adventure, right? Adventure is generally this kind of. It's a bit of a trope. It's a bit of a thing where you have, dungeon crawling or some form of exploration, fighting a bunch of monsters, talking to some people, doing some stuff. General scope of a basic adventure. You exploring some area. Could be caves, could be a castle, could be something, whatever it is. That's a general adventure type thing. For me, if you can provide the system that is good enough that you can do things that are more, for instance, something to do with food and cooking and stuff, that kind of thing is not in the normal scope of adventure, but it's equally fun depending on what you're doing, and providing a system that accommodates that kind of stuff is really useful. So for me, that's the basis of building a system that can accommodate different types of play and a lot of stuff, and consequently providing a lot of tools for that is the key. That's the base. The reason for the if you're not familiar with tabletop systems, what they are is effectively just a set of procedures and a set of rules, and all of the reference information that you would need for you to be able to run and create your own adventures from scratch, or be able to run the existing modules and run them effectively and have conflict resolution, all of the different things that you do during a session. So that's what all of that stuff is for. The books are there for you to create a character from scratch, build something that is rich and really interesting and fun to play. If you're running games, you've got all the tools to put in the various sort of play outcomes that you would want from the play session, and keep things interesting. So you're not simply doing the this kind of what I class as a TTRPG game loop, where you tend to, it's another fight. Great, okay, we'll do this. Oh, it's another fight. That kind of play, I find tends to encourage min-maxing, and I'm a bit more of a fan of the role-playing side of things rather than just straight up, murder hoboism or anything else. So, I mean, people do it anyway. They lots of people tend to end up as murder, that kind of thing. But yeah, I'm much more of a fan of role playing, to the extent that if it comes to things like fantasy and stuff, I've done LARP for many years. I've not for a while now, but I really like that kind of stuff. Having proper fun with things and really getting into a role and playing it properly. Playing characters is so much fun. So so when it comes to when you're mentioning about the Tano and Lina and those characters, so those characters you will see them in the video game version, and the video game version is due to the nature of video game development, so we have those. There are a set of characters there that are they are there for the first version, the first module. They are there as default characters that you can pick up if you're not designing your own character with a character creation setup. So we needed some characters that would have the fidelity that we need, have the kind of an interesting example of a character and everything else. So I built these characters built out of the same character system. They are characters in the world of Atom 7, but they are a placeholder, a person that you would see as an example, and they're very useful in terms of allowing us to build and play test the video game system with the kind of fidelity and the final character quality that we're working with for the final result, so that we can stress test things correctly. And also when you're testing things with a character that looks close to the final result, and that way the overall early stages of development, and as we're going through the beta testing, people are playing with things that are a nice looking character, and they're well fleshed out, and they look like they've the kind of thing you'd expect to be playing when you're using your own character from Character Creator. So it's more about it's a specific way. Those characters were designed specifically for me to demonstrate that stuff, as well as provide testing and an efficient build process. So when we're doing the video game, it's better. But the way I would place those guys is that if I was playing the tabletop version, these guys would be snapshots of characters that are already quite experienced. They've already got a fairly large set of skills and modifications, mods and stuff that were, one of them, Azebo, the big guy, the big African guy. He's from Malawi. He's like 6'7". He's in a clade, and his clade is what makes him that large. He's and a clade is effectively a genetically distinct line of humans that he's been modified. So all of his progeny are these giants. They class themselves as gentle giants. They have a philosophy of protection through power and strength. So their thing is being very big and very powerful, but never using it in anger, but only in protection and that kind of thing. So it's one of a number of as I've mentioned, a number of clades. They're all different variations on different ideas and different changes and things that have been made to make someone functional in different environments, or have a particular philosophy, or have a particular. That's what that's all about. So those characters are just examples of that. Team tabletop are amazing. For me, I'm because I grew up on tabletop. I think I've mentioned this in the description on the Kickstarter as well as in other places, but my first experience with gaming at all, and especially with like fantasy gaming and that kind of thing, was initially finding fantasy books. They're the very first things I ever touched in that regard, and I started playing with those at the first time I played with. I had the first home computer that we had, and it was a little 64K MSX machine, and we got the basic programming manual for that. And I got at the same time I got some money to go to the bookshop, and I bought this Death Trap Dungeon Fighting Fantasy 6, and that was that's something. The two things together, finding out that the book was a game and the game was a book, and the programming manual and the book with its if then and go to functional calls and everything else was the same as the Choose Your Own Adventure book. But it blew my mind. I ended up on a journey that I've never stopped ever since then. I was 11 years old when that happened, so Yeah, it's been quite a while. But that led me on to D&D. I was introduced to D&D by a friend of mine in high school, and absolutely fell in love with it. That was had a quick look at first edition, but basically was completely sold on second edition, and played second edition non-stop for a very long time. Yeah, before I switched to switched it up from there, and started getting slightly less interested with the later editions, I think. I still love it, but I still have a fondness in my heart for second, even though it's, with all its flaws, it's slightly too many tables and things, but that's what that is. Yeah. Yeah, for me, the business of making your own world and making your own stuff from tabletop is the key bit about tabletop that makes it valuable. So yeah, that's why there is an encyclopedia, because yeah, for me, I've basically been, what I've been doing is writing the things that I would want the most, because I think that's generally the best thing to do. And the thing that I've liked the most out of all these supplementary manuals and everything else that you would have with other tabletop systems is that I would always eat up all the supplementary manuals. It doesn't matter how many there were or how deep they went. I would just keep consuming them just as fast as I could, and there was never any end to that. And the only time I became dissatisfied was when there wasn't any more, like there wasn't anything left to learn or to know about a thing. And that for me has always been a very rewarding experience. And so providing as much as possible to someone else is always generally a goal. At the same time, I have there's this balance that you need to have, because it's great to know about all the stuff, but it depends on what position you're in, because if you're the GM, you want to know about everything, and you need to know about everything. You need to know as much as possible. The less you can sit there looking things up and referencing things, the better, generally, because it keeps things fluid, and you're not doesn't give you downtime at the table, basically. But from a player perspective, you want to know basically as little as possible, as you want to know enough about the world to be functional, but you don't want to look under every bit of everything. Every dark corner should not be exposed, because it effectively ruins the game for you. One of the best things about exploring worlds like this is the exploring. So it's one of the reasons why I've split this thing out into an encyclopedia. And I've kept the contents of the GM guide and the player's handbook as functional gameplay oriented as possible, while providing information about the world. Oh yeah, cool. Lovely to see you here, mate. Yeah, yeah, good vibes to you too, to you and your family as well, mate. Yeah. I'm very, very keen for you to play this, and I'm keen for it. Yes, very keen. Yeah. So yeah, have a good one. We'll see you soon. Yeah. So for the that sense of mystery for me is really important, because it's a little bit like, I've never been a fan. I'm never a fan of spoilers, and I to the extent that I do a thing where I tend not to watch trailers for movies, or if I hear about anything about something that's coming out, I immediately switch off and try and ignore it. And I do my best to try and encounter things blind. If I find something and it's out, I don't want to know anything about it, because for me, all of the best experiences I've had with movies and books and shows and other forms of entertainment have generally always been when I know as little as possible, and that stuff is revealed to me as a surprise. It's not always good. Those surprises can sometimes be pretty awful, and not not that memorable, but the good ones so much better. And I remember this as a, not to digress from tabletop, but I remember this as an example from many years ago. That TV show Lost. As good as the beginning was, and as good as terrible as the ending of the season was, the beginning was amazing. But the beginning was amazing if you had no clue about what the show was about. If I had seen an ad about Lost and I had seen a picture of the people on the beach with a plane crash and all this stuff, I would never have had remotely the same experience as I had watching that show for the first time as I did when I watched it as I had with no knowledge of anything. Guy wakes up lying on the ground, dog sniffing him in the middle of some bamboo, stumbles out onto a beach. What the hell is that sound? There's some weird whining noise in the back. Oh shit, that's a plane. Oh, okay. That was great. Any knowledge of that, not as great. So that's been a theme for me always. I always try and generate as much mystery as possible. And what I've done here with A7 is talk about it a lot and talk about all kinds of stuff about it ad nauseum while I've been developing it for a long time. So it's not the best. It's not, it's really going against the grain for me. In saying that, I've talked about maybe 10% of everything. So it's not that bad, really. I'm keen for people to spend a long time digging around and finding things. So, yeah. Yeah, with that in mind, I think we're in a good place. But yeah, keeping things hidden is a very important part of all of this. So yeah, yeah, yeah. Same with the bestiary, the menagerie. That's another thing where there's quite a lot of creatures in there, and I think it's a really good idea not for players to buy that book. It might be funny for you to say, please don't buy the book. Please don't get this one. But I would recommend very much that players don't buy the menagerie or the encyclopedia. If they want maximum enjoyment out of it. And I say that in the knowledge that players pretty much never buy books. They rely on your GM, they rely on me and other people to buy the books, and they just borrow them and never give them back, or they look at them at the table at the time. But that's basically common. I could count on maybe one and a bit hands the number of players I know that have been avid reference book collectors. But that's the nature of things. So generally that's fine. I mean, it should be okay. People, they won't be exposed to the things that will spoil things for them. But I just generally think it's a good idea to keep those things a secret, for as long as possible. So, it makes things much more fun.